Hello and welcome to Gamersledge Podcast. Come on in, sit down, relax. I am, of course, your host, Mark, which I have not been here for a couple weeks, but we'll get into that in a minute. I am super glad to be back, super glad to be in our new location, which I can't show you because there's nothing but boxes around us. Joining me in this fine, momentous occasion is, of course, to my right, first and foremost, Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
And next to Daniel from the Great White North, all a little bit bundled up, it's Kate. And next to Kate, the man who is currently sitting in front of more comics than you could possibly fathom, it's Matt.
Howdy.
And last but not least, joining us all the way from the garage of the unknown, it is John.
Yes, my lovely garage again.
I just am fascinated. There's A1, there's apples, there's bunch of dishes.
It's actually a lot of A1. And then there's also a lot of barbecue sauce. My girlfriend went to Costco just a few days ago and loaded up on everything.
And then there's the random jar of Quaker Oats back there, too, I see. That's pretty interesting.
You know, if you look closely, there's probably a lot of weird stuff on that shelf, actually.
Hey,
there's a halfback.
Is that Jimmy Hoffa?
You're not supposed to tell, Mark. You're not supposed to tell.
My bad. Well, it's been a couple weeks for me. We've been moving into a new place in San Francisco. We're here, but nothing is unpacked. Hence the beautiful white wall that this will probably be a one-time deal that I'm broadcasting in front of, because literally anything outside of this is filled with boxes. It's kind of crazy. It's all boxes all the time, 100% of the time. But
well, to be fair, it's only like 100 square feet, you know, so it doesn't take many boxes to fill.
It's actually much larger than that, thank you. It's almost the exact same size as the place we were in before. And I have a personal huge shout out and thank you to the man sitting next to me on my right, Daniel, because he's the one that got the sofa up here so that my wife didn't bust into tears. So yeah, he performed a huge service in helping us figure and sort that out. But
I don't want people getting the wrong idea. I didn't move the couch.
No, he masterminded the move for the couch. This is 100% true. But yes,
Tetrised the couch.
No, he removed layers of the couch and then Tetrised it. So
I was going to say, how much surgery was required for this task?
There was a bit of surgery. I asked the building landlord, you know, is there a trick or anything that you can tell us? And he was like, it either fits or it doesn't. I'm like, that's super helpful, thanks. So yeah, but yeah. So let's start as we do, as is tradition, go around the room and talk about what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. Let's start with my favorite person who likes to go first. It's Kate. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Kate. I know you always hate when I make you go first. Let's start with Matt.
Oh, wow. Okay. And Kate, I don't know if you're muted on purpose or not, but when you said something there, I didn't hear you. So let's see. I've been trying to finish up Song of the Deep. That's that Insomniac underwater Metroidvania game. GameStop game, yeah. I started it a long time ago and then realized, oh, hey, I never finished this. So that's been the game I've been working on trying to finish. Also worked a bit on Horizon, had some time to throw into that. Played Rock Band 4. Not that I needed to, because one of our bandmates got to Diamond all by his lonesome, even if I hadn't played at all. He or she was pretty hardcore about it. So we're at Diamond. We've got 1 week now to see if we can make Bloodstone or not, and see where that goes. Let's see. I played some Pinball FX3, which apparently is also Zen Pinball 3. So I don't know if that's just what it was called everywhere but here, or what the deal with that one is with the name change. But most of my tables imported. I seem to have lost a couple along the way, but who knows? That might have been back from the days when we were sharing stuff or something. So who knows? I tried out the Fortnite Battle Royale mode. I played one match, got to 9th place, called it good, and didn't go back again. So we'll see if I feel like braving that again, or if I just decide, 9th is good enough. Then what I've been doing tonight is the Star Wars Battlefront 2 demo. I pre-ordered that on the absolute last day that you could to get the early access to the beta, because me pre-orders. But so far, the first thing I did was I jumped into Starfighter Assault, because the Starfighters in the last Battlefront were so horrible that I just had to know if it got any better. And good to announce, it is infinitely better. It's still got that weird left stick to accelerate, right stick to steer setup, which my fingers don't like. But you actually have a HUD this time. You can identify where enemies and allies are and objectives are and everything. They've actually got markings on the thing so you can see it. And you don't have to run around the map looking for stupid little icons and stuff anymore. You can just focus on what it is you're doing. So, yeah, that's much better. Otherwise, I tried all the modes so far. Something that might lure you in, Mark, there's loot crates now. Loot crates? No? Okay. Well,
did you have to pay for them with real money?
Right now, there's no real money loot crates. I don't know if that's going to be a thing when it goes live in November or not. Right now, it's all in-game currency or achievements. So they've got daily, weekly, monthly, I think, and just open challenges. And when you complete many of them, you get a crate. Crates contain 3 star cards. One will be a themed card, and then the other 2 will be random. So if you get something for the assault class, one of the cards will be an assault class card, and the other 2 will be random whatever. So cards are very different this time around. You start out with 3 abilities. So there's 4 different character types. Assault, which is your standard trooper, officer, a specialist, which is your sniper, and heavy, which is heavy. They each have different weapon setups. But they're independent, so you're never going to have the same weapon as an assault as you are with a heavy. So they level up independently. So you have a user level, and then each of the classes have a level. So fairly similar to something like Battlefield, excuse me.
So I want to double check, because I think I know. Kate, did you have Battlefront, the first one?
No.
Okay. Daniel, you did, yes?
I have it. Okay. The season pass. Yeah.
Okay. And then John, did you get it?
I played the beta.
Okay. So, I guess one of the questions I have is anyone... Kate, are you planning on picking up the second one?
No.
Daniel, I knew you were on the fence about it. What are you thinking?
Oh, no. I've never been on the fence about it. Oh. I'll be buying it. And probably Season Pass.
Okay.
There isn't a Season Pass so far.
Yeah, there will be. I'm sure. It's EA.
Well, there probably will, but all of the levels and stuff are going to be included.
Yeah. They will be. They'll be installed. They'll be in the program.
which is something we're going to talk about later. Hold your vitriol there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then, John, what about you?
I'm on the fence, because now they have a single player, which is the one thing that I wanted to begin with. I wouldn't buy it for the PvP, because that's just not my thing.
So I will say that I'm tempted, because I have found that when they make Star Wars games that have a single player mode and you get to play as the bad guys, it's far more interesting than most of the other things that they do to me. So I'm really kind of interested about it, but I don't think I'm gonna get it at launch. I just don't think I've got the bandwidth for it and the other stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, save yourself $20 and get it in a week off of Craigslist. It's true.
Oh, Matt, so did you get a chance to play it at all? You kind of described the setup.
I played the 4 modes that are available in the beta. I played at least one round of all of them.
What's your overall impression like for how it feels?
It feels good. as far as the in-game running around shooting, everything feels fine. It's not. I mean, I think Destiny is probably, in terms of the shooting mechanics, still better. But it's on par with, say, a Battlefield. You know, that type of game. Each of the classes do feel different. I mean, the controls are all the same, but with the powers that they have gives them some individuality, and the specialized weapon types, you have to play them differently. You can't play the assault and the specialist the same way. You just can't. They've done things to specifically avoid people like me doing what I was doing when I jumped back into Battlefront, the last one here in the last month or so. Basically spamming all of my abilities with grenades and just grenade chucking left and right. So you can't do that anymore. They keep you from doing that with the way it's set up. Refresh times on stuff are huge. Like your thermal grenade takes, like your thermal detonator takes, I want to say it's probably like 30 seconds to refresh, to cool down. So you're not going to be spamming anything. They did the weapon. You know, there's no reloading, right? You have the overheat on the weapon. So if you fire enough that you overheat, you used to have, so long to hit square, I think it was, before it would go into the longer cooldown. They did it better this time. This time, the bar just goes across instead of together, and you hit the trigger at the right time. Instead of having to find a different face button, you just pop the trigger at the right time on the bar, and it automatically cools down. So that was a lot better implementation this time. Graphically, it's gorgeous. I mean, it looks really good. Better than the last one, especially the Starfighter mode. The Starfighter mode is vastly improved. And again, they brought Criterion on to do that. So, you can tell that they put a lot more specialized care into that mode. They don't give you single player at all, so you can't really tell. So the four modes are the Galactic Assault, which is everything is pretty much it's the 40 player map, but everything's pretty much objective based so far. There's not really just kind of a death match that they've got here. Maybe in the final product, I don't know. But so that's defend the goal or attack the goal, basically. Strike, which is the 16 8-on-8. And again, that's you play both sides. One's the attack, one's the defend. The one that they've got in there is kind of a variant of capture the flag, except there's only one flag and only one team's trying to move it. If that makes any sense.
Okay.
Then the Starfighter Assault again is objective based, attack this or defend this. And then what was the other one? Oh, Arcade. Arcade's the weird one. Arcade is like time trials.
Okay.
Well, it's like, how quickly can you do this and how many stars can you get, right? And then you're also earning 2 of the 3 in-game currencies. There's 3 in-game currencies, one of which I haven't even gotten yet, so I have no idea how you get it. But you get credits and I forget what the other one's called. They're kind of coin-looking things to buy either loot crates or other stuff in the game. There very well could be microtransactions to buy packs of those later, which will kind of break the game because people are already got way advanced stuff and the game's only been out for 10 hours, 12 hours. Yeah. So, people have already gotten way advanced stuff. And if you just give people the ability to buy it, that's going to be nutso. But they are random drops. So it's not like you're buying the star cards like you were in the last one where you're buying that specific card to do a specific thing. It's random loot drops. So
what else did you play this week?
That's it, actually, for the play front. Let's see. Watched The Gifted pilot. Wasn't terrible. Inhumans started out good, got terrible. Episode 2 of The Good Doctor, which is the channel the autistic doctor one. I can't remember what channel that is.
I think it's ABC Family, isn't it?
It's a regular. If it's ABC, I think it's just.
All right.
Yeah, it's after Dances. It's ABC because it's on after Dances with the Stars because you get the end of that on there. DuckTales, Spider-Man, finished last season's Legends of Tomorrow finally, and finished season 6 of Game of Thrones finally.
Nice.
So,
You got a good one. Yeah,
yeah,
he's behind.
Yeah, I'm behind. So, so we have season 7 going on here pretty quick, hopefully. And that is actually my week. I haven't even touched a comic book this week yet.
So I'm gonna go with Kate now, second. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
What have you been up to?
Because of my stupid mic, you missed my awesome joke about your couch.
Oh, I didn't hear it. What'd you say?
Yeah, I was like, when you were talking about re-engineering it, I was like, and the bicycle shall be cut in two.
Yes, that is exactly correct. Well, the funny part was, and Daniel can attest to this. Something just fell. Is everything okay? Okay. The interesting part was that at one point there may have been a person that is not Daniel jumping up and down on a bed frame attempting to break it and could not.
A bed frame we shortly thereafter found out would fit in the elevator.
Yes. That is the way of how this move went. Yes. That is correct.
Anyway, I didn't really play much this week. I had to catch up on some reading for work. I watched a lot of videos of people playing Cuphead, though.
Yeah, I really want to.
I don't have an Xbox or a PC that can run it, so right now I'm forced to just watch people play it.
I'm still mystified by that because it's hand-drawn at 24 frames a second, but the game's rendered at 60 frames a second, and it's all hand-drawn.
Yeah, but the computer's filling in the gaps.
I know.
Okay.
It's still...
What is this?
Cuphead, which is an amazing thing. These guys set out to hand animate a game to make it look like the 1930s cartoons. And they succeeded on all fronts. And it's basically... Each level is
basically Mega Man.
Yeah, it's a run-up level to a boss, and that level teaches...
No, there is no run-up. There's no... It's just bosses.
No, there's levels now.
No, trust me. There's run and gun levels. There's like 2 per island. All the rest are just boss fights.
Oh, I thought you had to do the running guns to get to the bosses, though. Oh.
No.
All right, then. Then it's just a boss extravaganza where you go in and kill the bosses.
But Dark Souls level ball-bustingly difficult.
Oh, yeah, super difficult. But it's beautiful, and I think it's like one of those games that you look at it and you go, yes, someone should have done this earlier, and yes, there needs to be more of these. But it took them like 4 years to do this because they kept making it more and more complex as they went, and so it took them forever to get the sound and the animation done.
You can tell.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's quality, and not just in the graphics, the music, and everything. Like, it's worth the wait.
It is only available on Xbox and PC, yeah. And I was actually going to see if I could pull up a trailer and then we'll just mute it.
I would buy it for PC in an instant if my computer could actually run it.
Yeah, which mine definitely can. So I'm really
It's only $20 too.
Yeah, it's super inexpensive. Let's see, Cuphead trailer. Hello, computer. Cuphead trailer. Oh. It was just taking its time.
Wow. Can't even run a YouTube search.
Well, keep in mind that the whole thing behind the Rabbit platform is that it's basically a virtual computer. And
I'm just messing with you.
Uh-huh.
Good grief.
There we go. Wow, that's the 20... you know what, here we go. E3 2017. It's the wrong one, but that's okay. You'll get the idea as soon as it pops in. And I just need to kill the sound. There we go.
The music's great, though.
It is, but I don't want to do...
Yeah, copyright stricken.
So keep in mind, this is all hand animated. Okay, yeah. Get to the gameplay. But this is one of the ones that actually I've been waiting to come out, and this is actually the best. It was going to be the best argument for me to actually get a Xbox, But then I realized it came out for PC, so no need. But this is the actual gameplay, and it's all hand animated, and you are literally playing through all of this. It's crazy good.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So if you
check it out.
Yeah, for $20, it's not bad. Yeah. So what else, Kate?
Nothing really.
Okay.
No, I haven't played anything. I tried the Puzzle Fighter game on iOS, and promptly deleted it. It's got the Street Fighter V art style, so it's horrendously ugly.
Oh, wow.
So I was just like,
That's, yeah.
And it's like they've got like Frank West as a character there instead of like Felicia. And I was just like, nope.
Well, we'll have more to talk about Capcom in just a little bit too. Let's go to Daniel, and that'll tackle the first D in our triple D attack of our show this week. So Daniel, what have you been playing?
Okay, so I haven't been here for a while, so I'm just going to go over the things I've been playing recently. I beat Oxenfree. I'm a story person, so I love the stories of video games. Oxenfree, which is, I would consider it a fairly simplistic game. It's pretty much just choices, but it's a really good story. I also picked up Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which the story is amazing. It's a beautiful game, and it's really freaking twisted. And then Divinity 2. Steam would have you believe I've been playing it for about 45 hours. I really have only been playing it for about 5. I've accidentally left it open a couple times, but it's pretty amazing. I'm liking all of those games.
I want to spend a minute to talk about Divinity Original Sin 2. John, you are also playing it, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So, how much time do you have logged into it?
So I've redone my playthrough a couple times. The first one I didn't really like my main character, so I played about 20-30 hours in, realized I hated my character, decided to redo it. I'm sorry. I made some really bad choices on the first one. Just wasn't happy with it, so I remade it in my main character that I did in the original Divinity, which I really liked, and I played about 20-30 hours in that. And then I restarted again for another reason, which I don't remember exactly why, but I ended up starting it on an easier difficulty. I think maybe that was the reason, but I'm not sure if you can tailor the difficulty down in the middle of a playthrough. But even on the second easiest difficulty, it was brutal. And so I was like, you know what, I'll familiarize myself with the game, figure out where everything's at. So I decided to restart it on the easiest difficulty. And so now I'm probably about 80 hours into that playthrough. Again, probably about 200 to 250 or more on the clock, considering I just realized that I've had it running for the last, 4 days straight. Minimized on my computer, and I didn't realize it. But about 80 hours on the playthrough.
Okay. So I have now passed the 90-hour mark, and only on one playthrough. And the funny part is I am only just farther than you are now, John. So it's taken me that long because I've been going through everything meticulously. I'm going to blow both of your minds, and anybody who has not played Divinity Original Sin 2, I highly recommend it. It is quite possibly my favorite RPG of the last 20 years. I liked the first one a lot, but it had some problems, but this one is so far super good. But I'm going to blow your minds. I'm going to tell you how to make infinite money really easily in the game, because I'm actually thinking about restarting my playthrough specifically because of this. So the thieving mechanic in the game is based off of two things. It's the amount of gold that you're stealing from someone and/or the weight. So depending on what your thieving skill, your thieving stat is, it will tell you you can steal up to 2 kilograms worth of stuff or X amount of gold. So maybe like 1,500 gold from somebody. So the trick is what you do is you get a bag and you load up your bag with valuable items that are under the amount that you can steal with your thieving stat. You sell it to that person and take all their gold legit. Then you have other members of your party talk to people that are in that area so that nobody's moving, and then you sneak up behind them and you steal the bag. And the weight limit will take it, but if that person has more gold, you throw it in the bag. All bags only count as 1 gold piece worth of stealing.
Oh, come on. Don't. So, on the easiest difficulty, it's easy enough without having to cheat.
No, man, I'm still struggling. Like, because of my choices that I made, I killed a bunch of skill book vendors that I couldn't get access to any other way. So basic things like the teleport spell that Daniel had in his game, I did not have, and so I couldn't reach the hard-to-reach areas, all the hidden treasure chests, etc. So I'm actually thinking about starting my playthrough over. But this game is insidious in like how much you want to get better at it and overpower it. It's really, really good. Daniel, what are your thoughts on it, having played the amount that you have?
I'm really liking it. I agree. It's one of the best RPGs I've played in a long time. But it's also the little stuff that I really, really enjoy. A lot of the NPCs that aren't in your party still have a background. Notes and books and stuff that you find elsewhere helps to flesh out the world. I really enjoy it. I really, really do. I'm a completist kind of as well, so I spent an additional several hours just on Fort Joy, making sure I completed all of the missions. So I had a blast.
And the thing I'm finding is that Fort Joy is actually the tutorial, which is crazy because it's a solid. I mean, I've made it 90 hours, but I would say it's probably realistically a solid 30 hours for tutorial, which is kind of crazy in my mind. But John, what are your thoughts after spending 200 clock time, but 80 hours?
As long as it's your style, if the Baldur's Gates, the Icewind Dales, if that play style is something that you enjoy, this is probably one of the best RPGs you'll ever play. From the storytelling, the voice acting, the choices, how choices have ramifications that you don't even understand until hours and hours into the game. The amount of shinies, falling down the rabbit hole. It's a phenomenal game. Though, for me, it is a little dangerous because I tend to fall down the rabbit hole to the point where I lose track of where I'm at, what I'm doing, and then I lose interest. So I've been trying to be really good about kind of staying on point. You can easily spend 20, 30 hours in Fort Joy in the next area easily, but you don't have to. But there's so much good gear, and I'm a gear guy. When I play a game, it's like I got to get that better stuff. I got to get those upgrades. And so knowing that they're there, I try and do everything I possibly can to get all the best stuff in the area, which starts sucking up some hours. So you can either cruise through it pretty quick if you really want to, or if you want to see all the interactions between all your players, your characters that you get, they all have conflicting. Like my first playthrough, I got the Red Prince and Sabille, who have conflicting storylines with one of the NPCs that are in the area. So if you're not careful, you can completely ruin your relationship with one of them if you let the other one do something. And so it's so complex that if you want that real in-depth story, you can get it. Or if you just want the surface story, you can cruise through and do that too. I think it kind of hits on all cylinders for all types of gamers, regardless of how you like your RPGs.
And so while we're on the subject of Ds, Daniel, what else did you have that you've played, if anything?
Well, that's about it for playing. I mean, we've been getting caught up on TV shows, Orville and Good Place, and going back through Voyager because I should have Star Trek, the role-playing game, the pen and paper game, coming pretty soon. So we've been trying to get caught up on all fronts.
By the way, did you remember to take your Starfinder book?
I did, yes.
Darn. Okay. So, John, how about you? What have you been up to playing?
So, since it's been a 32-week interval, since apparently the last time I have appeared on this show, a lot of different things. Divinity, I started playing Destiny 1 again some time ago when some of the expansions came out. Been playing a lot of throwbacks. I actually just got the SNES. So I've been playing things like, Super Mario RPG, Secret of Mana, Metroid, all those. Having lots of fun with that. PUBG. Not a big shooter fan, but because it's kind of a cross between a survival and a shooter, been having a lot of fun with that, except I really suck when it gets to endgame. I completely get destroyed when it comes down to the last couple people, and I plan on never being able to win that game. But then again, they also did just ban, 300,000 people for cheating?
Wow.
So maybe that's why I can never win.
Is that for, add-on software that they're using?
Yeah.
It was a combination, if I remember right, of add-on software, but also AFK farmers. Because there are people who will just go into a match to try and... if you participate in a match and die, then you get some of the fixed currency that the game allows you to spend on gear and stuff. And so a lot of people were farming that by just entering matches and then never doing anything, collecting their reward, and then entering another match. So they were trying to cut down on a bunch of that as well.
So there was no AFK timer, so you didn't get booted.
No, you don't get booted. Yeah. Because you had to actively click the thing to get in, so, yeah.
What else? So did a lot of that. The next D that we're going to talk about, I did purchase Destiny 2. I played that for probably 40, 50 hours, and then subsequently sold it, which we'll talk about, I'm sure.
Well, no, let's talk about it now. Why?
You want?
Yeah, that's
you want to dive right into that?
Yeah, that's
why. So what do you want to know, Mark? What is the biggest question that's burning right now?
Is it Destiny 1 with extra DLC?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It is absolutely a new DLC for it. Don't get me wrong, the story was great, the voice acting was fantastic. The humor, there's so much more humor in the game than ever before. Cade 6 is probably the best addition to that game that they came with. And granted, he had played a bigger role in some of the later DLCs of Destiny 1. Shooting mechanics, the same. I wouldn't say they improved upon that, but then again, those were always real solid. You can't really beat the shooting mechanics. I did like the difference that they made in the gun styles. So instead of having a primary, secondary, heavy, like they did before, they went to a kinetic, elemental, and then a special, like a heavy. And so if you really liked the auto rifle, if the auto rifle was your thing, you could have that both as a primary kinetic damage weapon as well as a secondary elemental damage weapon. So you never had to use a shotgun or pulse rifle or anything that you didn't want to use. You could use exactly what you wanted, which I thought was a really nice change. Lots more to do in the sense of you're not stuck doing the exact identical thing each and every time. Well, but really it's... Hold on.
Okay.
But really it does kind of boil down to the same philosophy of you're doing the same general actions, just different methods of doing that action to be able to accomplish what you're looking for. So you don't have to just do patrols, or you don't have to just do strikes. You can do a dozen different things to get what you want. But it still boils down to you're doing a repetitive action over and over again for the sole purpose of gaining weapons, gaining upgrades, minor upgrades to slowly overall increase your game strength, which it got boring very quickly for me. Not even long enough for me to be able to get to the raid. And by the time I was putting it down, I was going, oh, I should play some Destiny. Yeah, no, I really don't want to. After not even 2 weeks, I just called it quits and sold it for $45. $15 to play it for 2 weeks.
Matt, I think you had a question in there somewhere.
Oh, it was just the character he mentioned that was a good ad. Is that the Nathan Fillion character?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. I wanted to clarify my question. I think he's away now. Looked like he had an issue. I wanted to clarify.
I'm back.
He's back. I wanted to clarify my question because when I said, "Is it Destiny 1 with DLC?" It looks like all the places and events that were in Destiny 1 are in Destiny 2. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct.
Okay.
It's 100% complete new playthrough other than a sort of quasi-entry level. So if you played the Destiny beta, which is the kind of partly the tower, that is the only area that I remember that is from Destiny 1. Everything else completely new content, new social zone. There's actually 2 main social zones that you have. All new planets, all new terrain. They did an amazing job. They actually truly meant if you see it, you can go there. With the caveat of, like, if you're staring off into an ocean, you can't get to the horizon of the ocean because it's an ocean. But other than that, you can realistically go everywhere.
Do you load so that you can load a loading screen?
No, but it's still a loading screen.
Okay.
You can jump from any screen to any place. So if you're in the social area, you can jump straight into a strike. But there's still a loading screen. You're just not loading into a loading screen to then load into another loading screen.
Right, which is the problem. Well, that sounds like progress.
It's a lot of progress. It's not a $60 progress, though.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So, what else did you play, if anything else?
What else? I've been kind of doing a lot of throwback stuff. Picked up Warcraft 3.
Ready to work.
Yes, exactly. Played that a bunch. So just a lot of throwback stuff. Nothing really catching my interest. I picked up Doom, the reboot of Doom. Good, but again, having a hard time keeping my interest. So just kind of bouncing around. Been watching a lot of TV with my girlfriend. She's big into a lot of shows, like binged through Prison Break. Been watching Once Upon a Time. She just started The Good Doctor, which is that one where it's the autistic doctor, and she says that's fantastic, but hasn't gotten me into that yet. Of course, Game of Thrones. I can't believe there are still people out there, Matt, that aren't caught up on Game of Thrones.
He's working on it. He's
making progress. So just a lot of stuff. Work is taking up a lot of my time. I'm traveling a lot more. So it's kind of hard to game when you're traveling all the time. Plus, between my girlfriend and I, we've got 6 kids. So there's not a whole lot of time for, madness, right?
You're the living Brady Bunch. I'm just saying.
It's true. So.
Well,
that's about it.
I have been playing Divinity Original Sin 2. I have been playing a couple other, Star Trek Online a little bit. Not being able to play a whole lot of anything due to the move. I am super excited in a way that I really shouldn't be for a game that I know is probably going to burn me. but I am really on the fence about WWE 2K18. It has like 200 pre-made characters, and they have loot boxes for parts and moves and stuff, but there is no way to buy them with real world money. You have to earn them in game, which that's my kind of loot box system. If you're going to do it, that's the way I prefer to do it. They have a bunch of create a wrestler, create a show, create a pay-per-view kind of stuff. So I'm.
Isn't the last time you really actually liked a wrestling game like 1998?
No, it was 2006. It was SmackDown versus Raw 2006. That was like the epitome of that arc of the games at this point. I know that I am not super in love with the control scheme for this new one, but it's not horrible, and usually I can find a way to make it work. There's a lot of stuff that I like about them. I just wish that they would eventually clean up all the stuff, but because it's a yearly franchise, they tend to add 2 or 3 fixes and then a bunch of features, and then they eventually circle round. And it looks like this time they've circled around to a few of the long-standing issues. They actually removed some of the things, some of the content, so I'm like... But the big thing for me is, like, I'm usually a buy-it-on-disc person, and this is the first time that I've seen GameStop shoot themselves in the foot in a long time. If you buy the digital version of the deluxe or above, there's a deluxe edition, and then there's a collector's edition. The deluxe edition comes with the season pass. If you buy the digital version from anywhere, whether it's PlayStation Store, Amazon, Walmart online, it doesn't matter. Wherever you get the digital version from, if you get the deluxe or higher, you get 4 days early access. But if you buy it at GameStop, you do not. So that's one of the first times that I can remember in a long time that they are actually really giving you an incentive to not use GameStop, which is surprising. So there is that.
GameStop.
Yeah, and that launches next week with the early access, and then the other game that is coming out next week that I think it's next week. I'm pretty sure it's next week. That I'm super excited about is South Park, The Fractured But Whole. It's long time coming. I'm super excited for it. That's coming out soon. I watched Blade Runner for the first time last night. Was horribly unimpressed. Although, like I said to a couple people earlier, I get it. It's at this point a period piece. It's late 80s, early 90s sci-fi, early 80s sci-fi. Whatever, it is what it is for what it was, and for then, I can see how it would have been super visionary, etc. I think the plot's kind of meandering, the acting is hit or miss, the entire thing is just kind of weird, but I get it. I can see
very weird. It was
weird on
purpose.
Well, I know, but I mean, it's very weird for some of the directorial choices, some of the acting choices, some of the plot choices. There's quite a bit that's camp in there as well. It's fine. I want to watch the new one. The new one has been getting good initial reviews, so I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing that this weekend. At some point, we'll see. And what else am I watching? God, am I watching anything? No, I'm behind on almost everything. I'm behind on John Oliver. I'm behind on the news. I'm behind on pretty much everything. So,
what's John Oliver? Are you talking about last week tonight?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny that you count that as like a show that you would count yourself as being behind on.
But they are timely. They are timely. Like they are generally synced up with what's going on at that point in time, and so when I get behind, I'm farther away from that thing, so it's not as relevant, which
only proves that the attention span of the average person is about 5 seconds.
Yeah, pretty much. You're not wrong about that. My wife has been super obsessed with this Indian or Pakistani drama that is the first time that she's ever watched a show in subtitles. It's called Lovebird, and I love that Netflix gave it the old marketing effort of the episodes are named episode 28 and episode 32. It's like they're just like, oh look, we've got this drama over here in this other country. Americans have it now, yoink, and that's it. That's all they did, and the subtitles are there, and that's it. It's hilarious. So it's kind of interesting because this is setting her up for J dramas, and once I start her on J dramas, I know I'll never see her again, pretty much. But
that's as long as you don't put her into K dramas, because
well, it's the same difference. J dramas and K dramas are pretty much identical. So
I don't know. I think it's more like the difference between like cocaine and heroin. I think
I'd say they're pretty much the same in that respect.
I would ask what those are, but I don't think I want to know.
Okay,
So,
what about MLO dramas?
mellow,
light orchestra.
Melodramas?
I see what you did there.
Surprised you didn't get that one.
Look, Kate, I'm not the only one.
It's okay. She just wants to kill you both now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
She seems rather unimpressed.
Yeah, she
I
seemed
wasn't
very
even
unimpressed.
listening.
She wasn't
Oh,
paying attention.
yeah, Daniel made a pun, and
I'm
you
really
missed it.
bad one.
Yeah, it's a good one. I
I'm
liked
not
it.
sorry.
Yeah. So J dramas are Japanese dramas, and K dramas are Korean dramas.
Oh, okay.
And I'm telling you, there is a J drama on Netflix right now that I really want to watch. It's about a guy who retires, and he's trying to find a hobby, and he decides to become a food critic, and he goes to like all these restaurants and tries the food, but he doesn't know what he's doing, and he imagines himself as a samurai in like these barren times, going and doing this, and like whatever happens to him affects the samurai instead, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. I totally want to watch it. I think it's called Ramen Samurai or something like that. But I was really
Matt.
yeah.
I mean, Mark.
Yeah.
Sounds like something up your alley.
Yeah.
I want you to go up to a Korean or Japanese person and say Korea, Japanese, it's pretty much the same thing, and see how fast it takes for them to punch you in the face.
Yeah. Because that's like saying there's a vastly wide difference between J-pop and K-pop. There's not. It's the same. It's the same companies.
Try calling a Scottish person English or a Canadian American.
No,
and see
I
how
am not
much they
saying.
get.
I am not.
There's a level of craziness with the K's that's not there with the J's.
No, see, I am not saying that the Japanese culture and Korean culture are the same, or that the Japanese people and Korean people are the same. I'm simply saying that J dramas and K dramas draw from the same pool of companies that create them, as do J-pop and K-pop.
Yes, I agree with Matt though that K dramas are more fun.
But yeah, so that's where I'm at.
About Japanese stuff, where even if it's fun, it takes itself too seriously.
I don't know. There's some that don't. You just got to look to find them. But I understand what you're saying, because yeah, there can be a lot more seriousness in them. I agree with that. But when they're crazy to that level, in my opinion. Just not all of them are. But if you haven't watched any, I highly recommend you do, because they're fun and different.
So I think there's one question I've been sitting on. I didn't know whether to ask it or not, but I've heard this before, and as a person who does not like endgame stuff, I cannot understand the difference between what you, John, didn't like about doing the same thing over and over and over again at the end of Destiny 2 versus any other MMO type game that you did like, where you just do the same thing over and over and over again after you get done with the story?
That's a good question. Part of it is I feel like Destiny should be more of a social game. That was part of the draw for me. You know, like when Mark and I were playing Destiny 1, there was a lot of 3- and 6-person content where doing the same thing over again wasn't as bad because you had, 2 to 5 other people on voice chat with you where you were able to kind of just chit-chat and see how things were going and kind of have company. Whereas I found myself not needing, and also it almost being a burden to try and join up with people. And so it made the task of running the same things over and over again a little bit more tedious, where it's not something I really wanted to do. Whereas with like a traditional RPG, that's kind of the thing you're already doing. It's just a one-player game. There's not a whole lot of social aspect to it, and I kind of feel like it's different, and it's just something that kind of really got old really quick. Also, like for instance, the way the level up structure works is it's not so much like in a traditional RPG. You have a particular weapon, sword, armor, whatever, and you get a significant upgrade. And so stats are different, appearance is different, everything's different about it. With Destiny, what they did is they did this like little micro increases where if your gear score was 270, you would start getting up to like 275 pieces. And so then what you do is you take that 275 piece and you just basically like break it down and upgrade your existing item up to 275. And so you would never really even get different items, weapons, gear for the most part. You would just keep the same thing and just upgrade it a little bit. And you do that over and over and over again. So it felt very, very tedious to me because it was almost like I'm just farming micro upgrades and not so much, like when you're raiding, it was, hey, I'm raiding for that one particular big upgrade. Where when you're playing the non-raiding content, you're playing over and over again to identify the engrams, as they're called in Destiny, to hope you get a couple power points, light points higher than what your gear was. So it just got very tedious very quick. Also, the fact, which is a good segue on this, they actually introduced pay to win on Destiny 2. Which people didn't find very, very kindly to that. Before it was you paid for appearance items and emotes and things like that. Now you can buy something called a bright engram, which has the chance to actually decode into gear. So although most likely you're going to get an emote or an appearance item, you can buy a ton of bright engrams and get legendary weapons. So that was kind of a negative thing, too, that a lot of people weren't happy about.
Plus, a lot of people weren't happy because in Destiny 1, if you wanted to change the color of your armor, you had an item called a shader, and you could use that infinitely. So no matter what, like if you used it once on a piece of armor, you could use it on another piece of armor, no problem. In Destiny 2... as soon as you use it, it was consumed and gone, and you had to either then grind in game for it or spend real money in order to get it again.
And I heard that most people were just sticking with legendaries because, again, what you were talking about, it wasn't worth the grind to find the exotics. It was you just better off sticking with the legendaries and breaking down anything you got to upgrade those.
Pretty much. I mean, I didn't cap out. I didn't cap out my gear because you have to raid to do that. But for the most part, there was no draw to push the difficulty and try and get that top end stuff because you just didn't need to. So there wasn't that allure of doing that.
And I have to say, also I don't raid, but that raid sounded like the most unfun thing in the universe.
The new one?
Yeah, the one for 2 that I heard.
I actually didn't look at it.
I listened to a podcast where they would talk about it for about a half hour. That sounded like the least fun thing I could ever possibly do in my life.
Yeah, like I remember back to the Vault of Glass, and that was like some of the funnest moments that I've had in gaming history. Yeah, I know you don't think so, Mark, but
no,
I mean just the
funnest.
Whatever. The most fun.
There you go.
Most funner.
That, yeah, it was good. It was teamwork. It was difficult.
It was very difficult.
It was very difficult, but it wasn't very difficult in an unfair and punishing way. Yeah, you had to be on spot. Yeah, you had to have everything in order, and people had to be on their spots. But it never felt unfair.
Right.
You know, and that's what Destiny got to be in later raids, is it was just unfair. There were things that you flat out couldn't control that caused problems. So being able to get to almost the maximum gear level without having to do that, and then you have if what you're saying is right, a punishing and unfair, unfun raid, what's the point of doing the end game?
Now, to be fair, the people who were talking about it loved it. I'm just saying, listening to them describe it,
yeah,
it was to the point where, like, you have 6 people in there, one person slips up for like one little thing, you're starting over because it's all done after that. There's like no recovery from messing up anything. But
also Justin wishes everyone a happy International Taco Day, and he also tries to get under my skin by saying irregardlessly. So between John, Matt, and Justin, yeah. So let's talk about our third and final D for discussion this evening, and that is on disc DLC. Capcom Infinite is in the news in a bad way yet again today on gamers' radars, because it turns out that someone leaked conversations with Capcom employees who had expressed their concern that Black Panther and I forget who the other character is.
Figma.
Yeah, thank you. Were on the disc, ready to go, and were ordered to cut them out of the game and make them DLC. So all the assets are on the disc. Everything's ready to go. They were done with it before the game ever launched, and then they were instructed by corporate to go in and make them DLC that people would have to pay for. Let's first take a gauge the temperature in the room. On disc DLC, should you have to pay for it? Yes or no, Kate?
No.
Okay. Daniel?
I'm torn over this because, I mean, in the end, we're a capitalist country. And, I mean, we're paying for the content that's on the disc, sure.
Yeah,
I think that if we had the capability to get that, to access that information ourselves, then we shouldn't be punished for getting it. But the average Joe who doesn't have the capability to get on the game and unlock that character without the company saying so.
Well, see, there's a big thing, because nowadays when you make a game, you do not stop making the game when it goes gold. Like, when it goes to the presses. You aren't done making that game like you used to be done. So that's why there's, like, these day one patches and stuff like that, because that's the stuff they've done since the game went to the press. So,
yeah, but that's different than on disc.
No, and let me finish.
Yeah, sure.
That, I'm going to use MKX for an example. Because it's, like, it had Goro as on-disc paid DLC, which I don't agree with. But characters like Tanya and, yeah, Tanya was the one who was in the story mode, but she was not done. Right. So parts of her were on the disc, but the playable parts of her were not finished because they were working on her after the game was pressed. There, I don't have a problem with it, because it was obvious that it was not done. But as far as this goes, I have a problem with it for more than just on principle, because Capcom knew this game was not going to sell well. And they needed to make money from it somewhere else. And they knew that everyone wanted Black Panther because since he's wearing a mask, he's one of the characters in the game who does not look hideously ugly. And
does he have a neck?
No.
No.
But you can't see his face in his crazy crackhead eyes. But they knew because of what happened with Street Fighter V, this game was not going to fly off the shelves immediately because a lot of people have, you know, once burned, twice shy with Capcom fighting games, right? Like, sure, Street Fighter's got a great life on esports, but it did not sell well. And that's what's happening now with Marvel vs. Capcom. Like, the hardcore fighting game guys say it's super fun to play. No one else wants to buy this game because it looks like garbage. Like, well, on Facebook, they had, not on Facebook, on YouTube, I was just clicking on there earlier, looking at, like, just my videos, and it had the Sigma Black Panther, you know, screen cap for the trailer next to the Atom reveal from Injustice. Just looking at the two of those games side by side is just like, why would I play this other game? It looks awful. Well, it looks like a PS2 game.
Yeah, one of the things that actually came out in that whole leaked transcript conversation thing was that most of the assets that are in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite are 11 years old or older. And they were told to put some filters on them in order to make them look better, but it looked even worse
at the same time,
before the internet made it.
You can tell that Marvel vs. Capcom is a budget game. And Injustice 2 had a humongous budget that was used well. But
the budget was less than the DLC budget for Street Fighter V.
Yeah, and Injustice has a gigantic budget.
Yeah.
But like I said, they knew that they needed to make money somewhere else because this game was not going to sell. But this is just going to make people even angrier because they have to win people back at Capcom, and this is not doing it at all. It's just making people angrier.
Matt, how about you on this DLC against?
You know, it feels bad, right? I mean, it feels like I bought this disc, which I have, and it's got stuff on it, or I bought this download and it's got stuff in it. You know, and that's the one thing I did the way Daniel said it. You know, you bought the disc. Well, you didn't really buy a disc. You bought a license that happened to come with a disc, and that license covers some, none, or all of the content on that disc. So, I mean, it's back to capitalism, like he was saying. You know, it's like if you know that there's stuff on that disc that you're not getting access to for the license you're buying for the fee of taking that disc home, then you have to not. I mean, the only way you can communicate that is by not buying it, right? That's the only way you can really communicate your dislike of that model, or, you know, wait till it's on sale or whatever. All in all, you know, as long as it was always planned as additional content. Let's get rid of the whole downloadable word out of there. Let's say if it was always planned as additional content, and you say you're a conscientious developer and you want to make sure that people that have low bandwidth, low download speeds can more readily access this additional content as easier as people who live in major metropolitan areas and have hundreds of megabits per second download speeds. Okay, you're including that content. You know, like Kate said, the game development doesn't stop once your thing goes gold anymore. It continues. So, you know, hey, you know what? This thing that we're going to do as additional content got done before something else did. Hey, let's include it in the build. And then when we sell it, you know, it's there and people don't have to worry about downloading it. You know, maybe part of a patch to enhance it or something, but whatever. It feels wrong. It doesn't seem right because, again, you feel like you're buying the disc and therefore you should have the right to everything on the disc. But in reality, you're buying a license to access a specific set of content.
But this one also wasn't planned to be DLC.
No, I mean, I mean, we would have never known that without this whole leaked conversation going on. So yeah, that's dirty pool there. That's gamemanship of the system.
But
right?
is there ever a time when they finish code and include it on the disc, that I'm failing to see a scenario in which you have described. Because either it's part of the base game, or it's after the game launches DLC that they got done ahead of time and put on the disc. So I've never seen a case where a developer has come out and said, we have this, but we're putting it on there so you don't have to download it. I can't think of a game like that.
I'm just, okay. I'm assuming
Destiny?
Right? I mean, I don't know that they would say that, hey, we're including this on the disc so that you don't have to download it later. You know, two very different teams could be coding the additional content with like additional characters. It could be a completely different team that's coding characters that are going to be additional content versus finishing story mode or whatever, right? I mean, they could be completely different teams. Sure. So it's feasible that content that could be downloadable could be completed before the core component of the game. So if they want to include it on the disc and they've got the space, again, we're assuming everybody's on the up and up and being, you know, ethical and stuff here. I mean, this situation sounds like it might be a little bit more, oh, you got that done? Yeah, let's not do that. kind of thing.
John, what about you? Oh, go ahead.
It makes it a harder pill to swallow when it's a corporate decision rather than like built into the business model.
Yeah.
Right. John, what do you think? Pro, con, on disc DLC?
It doesn't bother me one bit. I think the intent definitely plays in. If the intent was it was advertised as part of the game, or the intent was that it would be launched with the core game, and then at the last second they said, I see a lot of value in this character. A lot of people are going to want it. Let's pull it out and make them pay for it. Yeah, that's pretty shysty. But at the same time, it's their prerogative. I agree 100% that it's more of you're buying a license, and we see that with a lot of programs, that you're buying the core, you know, capability of the program, and if you want the extra features, you got to pay for them. Yeah, you got the disc. Yeah, you got the license. You paid the money. But if you want to be able to add that attachment, that add-on that imports it from A to B, you got to pay for it. It's not like they took a whole game mode and said, we know you guys really want this game mode. You know, you want versus
your actual description that you're setting up right now is actually exactly what Capcom did. They took an entire game mode in Street Fighter V single player story mode, and they made it a DLC add-on that you had to download later.
Okay, but we're not talking about Street Fighter V.
I know, but I'm just saying this actually.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah,
I didn't know that.
They charged. I thought that was free though.
No, it was free, but still, it was DLC after the fact.
And even the free price was too much money.
Well, maybe it was free DLC because it wasn't done, and they didn't want to delay the game based off of that one.
It was free because of all the ill will that game had built up. They probably would have charged for it initially, and that I don't think it would have been news at all if this were any other company right now.
Right.
But Capcom has to earn.
Destiny did the same thing,
and it's not as big of a deal because when you're not on someone's bad list, you have a little bit of leeway to do that kind of thing because you've earned a little bit of trust from your consumers. Capcom doesn't have any of that right now, so they should have went out of their way to give some goodwill, which this will do.
I mean, we've seen it a few times. Especially, I think Destiny was probably one of the largest instances of it because you saw a lot of people being able to glitch into areas that were eventually released as DLC. So if they're able to glitch into it, that means it was live on the disc and they have the core structure of the game. But at the same time, although whether their reasoning is let's load it on the disc now so that way low bandwidth customers don't have to download as much, or they just wanted to split, we have X amount of content finished, let's split it into 3 batches for DLC, regardless of what their motive is, it's their content to make that decision with. Now, at the end of the day, they have to decide cost, risk versus reward. Am I going to alienate X amount of my clientele by doing this, or am I going to make up for it in the overall cost or the overall profit of doing this? And it really doesn't matter. They have to make that decision. A lot of people aren't going to be happy about it, but they're still going to buy it, and they're not going to make a change. So it really doesn't matter. They're going to keep doing it. They're going to keep buying it. And it doesn't. You can be mad about it all you want. It doesn't change anything. They're still going to do it because people will still follow through with what they want. They're not going to speak with their wallets.
See, and I'm actually going to fall, which I think might surprise Matt. I'm actually going to fall on the fact that it doesn't matter and it's fine. Because having been engaged more with the PC Master Race of late, there's no discs. There are no discs. You get code and you get what you get in the game, and then DLC comes out, and whether it was in that initial download or you have to download an additional 14 gig patch, it doesn't matter. And I think that this is actually one of those weird conversations that we're going to look back on in like 10 years and go, that was such a weird thing because there were physical discs at the time. Once there are no more physical discs, which I do think will take a while, but once we get to that point, PC's already there. I don't even think you can walk into a store and buy a disc for a PC anymore. When you buy stuff at GameStop for PC, it's a box that when you open that has a download code in it. And so it's like, it's a moot.
Well, the thing is, I haven't bought a physical game in forever. I only do digital now. And I don't care about disc DLC.
Mm-hmm.
But my argument with where I said Capcom has ill will right now, because it's Capcom, it just makes me angrier.
Hey, did you see that the Capcom president came out and said, "Oh, we haven't forgotten about Mega Man"? That instills super hope in me. I think they're going to.
How they can ruin that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see how they can ruin Mega Man 2. All right, so let's jump. Go ahead.
They technically relaunched Mega Man.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're doing there. Fantastic.
Man, that thing is dinky. Holy cow!
It is.
Yeah, well, it's like the NES Classic. It's super small.
I never actually saw one in real life, so I guess I never saw how dinky it is.
It took me like 2 minutes to figure out how to plug in the controllers, because when you unsnap the controllers from the front, the actual front case kind of snaps up and it looks like the front of an NES or an SNES. So it took me like 2 minutes to figure out how to actually open this thing and plug in the controllers.
Are the controller cables longer than 2 feet?
They are twice as long as the NES, and then they sell extenders for them as well. They're still too short for a living room.
How much do the extenders cost? $75?
I didn't look. I just know that they're available.
I'm very curious as to how much those cost.
For me, it's not a big deal because I have mine on my computer desk, and then I sit just a foot or two back from my computer desk, so it's not a big deal for me.
Should I point out how ironic it is that you actually bought an emulation of a console when you have a PC right there? Right there.
Yeah, but then that would be stealing content.
You of all people should know that's not the same, Mark.
I know it's not the same, but it's like this Commodore 64 one that they're going to release. It's like you're making a console to emulate a computer when there's a computer right there.
But it's so cute.
Yeah, I guess.
I love it.
Let's talk about some news, shall we? There was a lot that went on this week. Some of it very interesting, some not so much. Let me try and scroll down a little faster here. There we Find last week's podcast. Blah 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 blah. Raiden. Nothing Burger.
Oh, on a side note, while you're doing that, I saw the movie It in theater.
Yeah?
That was actually really good. Went with my girlfriend, and she was absolutely terrified. Screamed out multiple times and damn near broke my hand.
Sounds like a different problem.
Well, you know how it goes.
Okay, I think that was... Oh, I could be wrong.
There we are.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
The triple post of podcast for some reason. I still can't figure out why it's doing that.
Yeah, that's okay. We really let people know that there's a podcast. No, that's.
We talked about that.
Yeah, I think I'm still a week behind here.
Oh, Matt, you were mentioning something about Fortnite?
Yeah.
Is that one and the same of the news story that I heard before and I just saw on the screen about them releasing the game mode that PUBG is upset about?
Yeah, that's what I was playing. I was playing the Battle Royale mode on Fortnite because you play that for free. You can download that. You can download Fortnite and play the Battle Royale, which is the 100 players on a map killing each other.
That's the whole reason I wasn't playing Fortnite is because they wanted me to pay like $70 for an early access game. I'm like, nope. So
yeah, which is funny because when it's done, it's going to be free to play.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. But sure, you can do it that way if you.
Have you played PUBG then at all?
I have not. No.
I was just curious how it compares.
I've heard it's very similar.
I think structurally it's very similar. Fortnite is obviously much more cartoony, and one of the interesting things is when you run in the game, you kick up a dirt trail. So usually I would see people's dirt trail long before I would actually see the person as they were running across the map. So that was an interesting little side note. As my main tactic was avoid. So every time I saw a dirt trail, I went the other way.
Yeah, that's Mark's tactic.
Yep.
And then just run to the safe zone as quickly as possible.
So Matt, what's going on with the PSVR?
Which one's this one? Oh yeah, there's a new version coming out. The 2, then the serial number, model number is different. Currently it's a 1, and the new one it'll be a 2. Same price, same capacity, same headset, except there will be a built-in place for headphone wires. So you'll have a little better integrated headset capability, and it has HDR pass-through in the box. So one of the major limitations of the current PSVR was that you plug the PlayStation into the PSVR box and then the PSVR box into the TV if you want to do the dual screen stuff. Well, if you had an HDR TV and you wanted to just play on your screen, you actually had to unplug from the PSVR box and plug it into your TV directly because that box did not have pass-through for that HDR signal. The new model will have that pass-through. Unfortunately, it is a hardware thing, and the plugs are different, so you cannot swap out anything. There's not an upgrade ability of the current PSVR headset. You have to buy the new headset to get this functionality.
That seems kind of a dick move for people that bought the original PSVR.
Considering, they sold something like 1.8 million of them, yeah, it seems a little rough. I get it if the physical connectors inside are just not capable of the throughput to do the HDR. There's nothing you can do, right? If it's the physical,
sell the box separately with compatible plug adapters, so that you're not having to buy a whole new brand new system.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe I'm the naysayer, but who cares? I mean, like for me, I sold mine. I got mine on launch. I'm not the typical gamer that would really care about the HDR pass-through, but I don't think the average person that owns one of these is really using it all that often. So if the issue is, well, I can't get HDR, then wouldn't you just keep the PlayStation VR unplugged and keep it unhooked until you're actually going to use it, and then you can hook it up? I don't think it's that big of a deal. it definitely isn't something that would be a sales feature for me to want to upgrade or buy a new unit, or even to buy a unit if I didn't have one to begin with.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just.
Daniel, you have PSVR. How often are you using it today?
So, I use it probably every weekend, every other weekend. I have games I should probably be playing more, like Star Trek or whatever, but I picked up Thumper about 3 weeks ago, and my 11-year-old plays it almost exclusively. Like, he loves that game. I've never had an issue. So, okay. I think I missed the beginning of this conversation. The pass-through HDR. What benefit does that get me that I don't currently have?
If you have an HDR-capable TV that does the high-definition colors and whatnot, then you would not be able to actually run that through the PSVR as you have it today. So if you had a... We're not even necessarily talking about a 4K TV, but any TV that supports specifically the HDR standard, then you can't have your PSVR hooked up and use that feature. Whereas if you hook direct, you'd have to, like Matt said, unhook and hook directly into the TV. But then when you want to use the PSVR, you'd have to unhook from the TV, hook back through the box, and use PSVR. But then you still couldn't access the HDR content.
Yeah, I guess I don't use HDR content.
Unless you have a much newer TV that's more expensive, you're not going to. So I think, to John's point, it's probably not an issue for a lot of people yet. But I actually contemplated getting a newer TV and a PS4 Pro, and now I have actually talked myself out of that process because I have my existing PS4 that I would want to use with my existing TV in another room, but the fact that their whole you can't have more than one primary PS4, and then what happens to all my content, and can my wife watch Netflix logged in as me for my PS Plus while I'm on that new one? It's just like, I'm just not even going to mess with it at this point.
The HDR content is not so much the VR content as it is everything else you would use on the PlayStation, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, Daniel, how often are you using your PlayStation in general? Is it every single day, all day?
Oh, I used it a lot more before I got Divinity. I was playing it quite a bit. But like I said, I just picked up Hellblade, the new Hellblade game, probably a month ago now, like right after it came out. And played the crap out of it. But the thing that had me confused was when I read this article online, I thought it was saying I would not be able to, with the headset on, see upgraded images. Like if new games came out that were higher def than the VR games currently possible, I would not be able to see those games as well, or even maybe use them or play them without this upgrade. That's why I was asking. Because
your content's unaffected.
Yeah. Well, unless they start putting out HDR content in VR.
But the display isn't HDR inside the headset.
Right, so there's no way for them to do that. Yeah.
So the way I would look at it is if I were using HDR content all the time on my PlayStation, and I only used my VR once a weekend, or on the weekend, it wouldn't be a very big deal to me to keep my VR unhooked until the weekend. And then weekend comes around, and I just plug in my VR box. Yeah, it's rearranging plugs. But it wouldn't stop me from using any content in general. It's just I would have to rearrange the way I plug it in. A little bit more work, but...
Yeah, so I don't think this change would be for you regardless. For me, I keep when I'm not using the PSVR, I have the cables unplugged anyway and rolled up safely against walls, like on hooks, so that children, animals, and the like don't pull the headset off the frame. So I mean, if it's a matter of unplugging and plugging and unplugging and plugging, I'm already doing that. But
you
there
probably
are
don't unplug the box.
Well, but I mean, it's the same. It's still two cables. So I could unplug the box if I wanted to, if that was the problem. But I think the issue here is that there are a lot of people who don't want to do that. And you're right.
Sure.
You could plug it. I could plug it in if I know I'm going to be playing on Friday, and I'm not probably going to be watching special things through the PlayStation. Then I'll unplug it and plug it back in Friday. But there's a lot of people, like my wife does not like having to unplug and replug in cables. And there was a while before I got a KVM for my computer that I was having to switch inputs manually, and so anytime she wanted to use it, she'd have to rerun all of the things and rerun cables. She was not a big fan of that, and I can imagine a lot of people wouldn't be. But like you said, it really depends on how much you're using the PlayStation VR, I think.
Newsflash. Video game culture is toxic, and the Overwatch developers are afraid to say anything honestly to the community for fear that they're going to get all kinds of buried by their fans. I don't even know that this needs to be discussed, but I'm kind of amused that they actually came out and said it. But yes, video gamers can be really bad.
People are mean on the internet? What?
Yeah, exactly. We already
I've never
talked
heard that
about
before.
the mini version of the Commodore 64 coming in 2018. I just shake my head.
Keyboard. It's got a keyboard.
It's got a keyboard. Touchdown is a new football mode coming to Clash Royale. I actually really feel in my heart, on the basis of no evidence whatsoever, that the NFL is paying the makers of Clash Royale to help spread American football into countries that currently do not know anything about it. Because there are a lot of foreign players in Clash Royale, and I believe that this is propaganda all the way. That's all I'm saying.
There's a political joke there that I'm just going to go ahead and skip over.
Yeah. Anthem announced it's going to have a beta. Don't know when.
Woo! Surprise.
Yeah. Surprise. Probably the biggest piece of news out of the week is out of nowhere, Andrew House is stepping down from Square. From Sony. Sony Interactive Entertainment. He's no longer the president-in-chief. He's being replaced by the guy that was the PlayStation Network president. And there's still no reason why or word why. It seems really weird. And there's no mention of what he's going to do after this. So,
well, if he follows the trend, he'll go join an indie develop or start an indie development studio.
Well,
soccer team.
Yeah, I would say that, but this almost looks like he's being forced out for some undisclosed
especially
reason.
At 27. It's like 27. That's really close to 30. Is there like some sort of pension thing that they would have to do at 30 that they're forcing him out before?
You know, they all said complimentary things in the interview and everything. So it doesn't seem like it was a bad breakup, but they would say that anyways, even if it was a bad breakup. I just don't. It's so weird. I don't know that we have anything to say because there's no evidence, but still.
It was a big surprise.
It was a very big surprise. We posted a story about the state of the bananas of the world because it was a really good read. I highly recommend you read it, but it's not got anything to do with games. But I thought it was really, really well written, and so I kind of posted it on the main channel.
It does have a lot to do with how we like to control things and in the process ruin them.
Yes, it is actually very much true. I actually posted a link to an article about the WWE loot boxes because when I initially saw they were doing loot boxes, it looked like it was actually microtransactions. But then as I dug into it a little bit, I found out that the only way that you can get the cash to open these loot boxes is through in-game, and I wholeheartedly agree with that premise. So that's good on them for doing that. Marvel's Jessica Jones Season 2 coming in 2018. Do we think it'll be better? I actually thought better than
Did people think it wasn't very good?
I thought it was the weakest of all of them.
I love Jessica Jones.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too.
Yeah.
It wasn't
I think you're
Daredevil.
an anomaly, dude.
Okay.
It took me like 4 months to get through that season.
Yeah, it was pretty slow. She isn't likable at all, practically.
I disagree.
But isn't
I'm not the only one.
I see what you're saying on that, Mark, but isn't that the point? Isn't that her character, that she's not likable?
No, it's actually not. If you go back and read the comic books, yeah, she's got her fair share of self-loathing, but it's not that she's not likable most of the time. She was actively,
Mark,
yeah.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there, buddy.
Probably.
In the comics.
Yeah.
That's part of why I have the problem with it too. In the comics, a lot of the material that was in the series on Netflix, I had issues with, and they don't really show that in the comic books. They imply it, but they don't actually show it when it comes to Purple Man. And so that was some of my issues. That's part of why it took me so long to get through it. And I just didn't like the dialogue.
Yeah. I'm hoping that now that Defenders is done, that she steps up into a little bit more of the super, if that makes sense, and she's a little less hard around the edges.
Things, I don't know because you're not a woman, but that's one of the things I liked about Jessica Jones, because it felt more relatable in the things that she was dealing with.
I will tell you that my wife hates Jessica Jones. She never made it through the season. She's tried to go back and watch it 3 times, and she can't do it. And I can't say that she speaks for all women. I definitely do not. I just know for me, she was really not likable. And I think that's a failing on the writer's side. Not, I don't know, whether it's comics or not.
Jessica Jones was way better than Luke Cage or Iron Fist.
Whoa, no. All right, yeah, okay.
Are we in agreement, John?
I couldn't even get through like the opening episode of either of them.
Oh wow!
Wow!
I watched all three of them, and I don't think Jessica Jones is as good to me as season 1 of Daredevil, but I still thought Jessica Jones was better than either Iron Fist or Luke Cage.
I thought Luke Cage was way better.
I thought Luke Cage was way better.
Luke Cage was so meandering, and you didn't know what it wanted to be.
Wow, it's a very mixed panel night. Yay! I like it when we actually get diversity.
Controversy, it's good.
Let's see. Well, let's see if we can agree or disagree on this one. PlayStation 4's firmware update 5.0 came out. I think it's a super big nothing burger that has like 0 features that anybody's going to be interested in. Matt, you seem to think that there might be potential in it. Have you?
Well, okay. As a not a pro owner and not a huge streamer, I can't speak to the streaming at 1080. I know the posts I've seen on that, for those that's a relevant issue, very excited about.
It's a relevant issue for me, but my question is actually a technical one: is why in the mother loving, why can't I do it on my PS4? Why do I have to have a pro to stream at 1080?
I'm assuming the extra processing power, they couldn't figure out how to keep the game running at the acceptable level and process the stream at the same time. I don't know. I am a computer engineer technically, but I have not seen the system architecture, so I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I think this firmware update is just a bunch of DLC they're going to charge you for later. The family stuff was the stuff I was interested in, and it looks like the items that I went through, there's still no native ability on the PS4 to promote a sub account to a master. You still have to go through the website to do that. There's no ability to do what I was hoping, which is multiple console management. There's no options for that, which I thought might be in there, and there's not. So it's aimed more at a Daniel's age family, right? My kids are all basically too old to have to individually manage what content they're seeing on the PlayStation, which is really all this is
individualized content management. So if they're only logging into their profile, you can set the 12-year-old to level whatever so that they can only get PG content or whatever and play, e-games or whatever. But I'm saying whatever a lot. Apologize.
Whatever.
It's fine, man. Whatever.
Whatever.
It was Mean Girls Day this week, so
It was. That second beer is hitting me a little hard. But yeah, for what it is, I mean, it ended up being not a lot there. I'm secretly harboring this hope that they're going to announce something at PSX that the framework for was laid with this update that they're just not ready to push out yet for whatever reason. That's probably a pipe dream, but that's something that I've gotten in the back.
I love your optimism. I hope you continue to have it, but I don't. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, it's not a whole. This is a 4 to a 5, right? So there's not that jump in features that you would normally see with a whole number revision. It just seems like now they're just going to do that. At the middle of the year, they're going to do a .5, and at the end of the year, they're going to do a whole dot revision, a whole number revision. And it doesn't matter what features are in it. That's just the numbering convention they're going to use.
So Injustice 2 added Raiden as a DLC character, but with it came the Black Lightning Premier skin, which looks amazing.
So is Black Lightning just a Raiden skin then?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
It changes his super, though, because Raiden's super is A, the best one in the game, hands down, and B, very Mortal Kombat-centric, so they had to change it for Black Lightning.
Yes. But still awesome. Which
is fun. Even though Black Lightning looks awesome, I would always use Raiden because of his super. Like,
I would too.
How could you not use the MK Dragon as a super move?
Yeah. 17 years later, M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable and Split sequel is happening. Everybody's on board. I'm actually super excited about that, which I really never thought I'd say about an M. Night Shyamalan movie again. But
it's only been one. I mean, the last dozen have been cruddy, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Well, no, I mean,
so
Split was really good. There's been a couple of good ones, yeah.
Other than Split. Split was good. I saw that one.
Yeah,
Other than Split.
There were a couple of good ones that he had.
I can't remember. What was the last one before that?
The Woman in the Water or whatever it was called was a debacle. There's another one that we didn't even realize was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, and it was terrible.
This is the power of being able to look stuff up in the stream.
Wow.
In the stream.
Throwing some shade at John.
No, I'm just saying. That's why I like this service to stream on. M. Night Shyamalan.
Ding dong.
What a twist. Come on now.
Oh, Last Airbender.
You're funny.
That was a good one.
You're funny.
I'll take one.
Wayward Pines is supposed to be good.
Yeah.
After Earth, that won so many Oscars. Devil was actually really good, though.
Devil was actually, that's the one I was thinking of. Devil was actually good, even though everybody
I remember seeing that in the theater where it's like the trailer was like, this movie was awesome, and it said producer M. Night Shyamalan. Everyone in the theater laughed.
Yeah, groaned audibly or something. Yeah.
No, they laughed.
Yeah, I don't think I saw that one.
And I'm thinking, I was thinking of Wayward Pines.
Yeah.
I didn't know Wayward Pines was with him, so I've heard the name, but I've never seen it.
Okay.
So you said a revival of M. Night Shyamalan. I'm thinking he had one hit recently.
No. He's had a couple, so I'm hoping he continues this streak because I'm hopeful.
I think the Last Airbender was where he bottomed out. So.
After Earth.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go but up at that point.
Well, yeah, I guess After Earth was slightly better than Last Airbender.
Yeah, it was
not much though. Not much.
You know, I had myself convinced for a while that he did the Dragon Ball Z movie too, because it was so bad. But it wasn't him. He
No,
didn't
it wasn't. No.
Okay, so PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds was shown to be in discussion with Sony and possibly even Nintendo to bring the console there, but then
This has been the most confused thing ever.
Microsoft looks to be extending its exclusivity window to draw it out to like a year. They're probably going to end up paying them a bunch of cash to do that, so probably don't look for PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds until like late 2018.
So by the time the fad is over, finally.
I don't think it will be, to be honest, but we'll see. Samsung Odyssey is a new VR Windows headset. Looks promising. They have touch controllers that are interesting as well. They're coming way late in the game, so we'll see how that works. The Atom. Actually, I actually want to click on this and show the video.
It looks so cool.
It looks so awesome. Although I am a little upset with them for pulling a Marvel Ant-Man Ant-Man in this.
More like Atom has existed way before Ant-Man though.
They actually came out in a similar year, but Marvel's the one that took him to Giant Man. Atom has almost rarely ever done that in the comic books, and that was more of the got to turn you off. There we go. All right. So,
Too late.
No, it's all right. It should be fine. So yeah, but he looks badass. I'm super excited for it. The fact that you can change up mid set of moves.
I'm thinking that's going to be his trait though, because if that was something he could just do all the time, there's no hitbox there. Like it would literally be broken.
See, I mean, they don't really show him on the defensive, so maybe it's just in the middle of a move. You know, that is the move, and so you've just got to learn to, read the patterns.
It seems like something that would be his trait, though, because then it's like something that you can only use for a very brief time.
I would think, wow, can you fire off your trait twice in a row?
Your trait's like a countdown, so you can use it as long as your meter's going down, right?
See,
so
I'm wondering
use it a couple times like that.
I'm wondering if he's the exception where you can actually grow mid-burn of your trait. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see.
It can't be something that he can just do, because then someone would just stay small all the time and it would have no hitbox.
No hitbox at all. Although if you kick him, it does 1,000% damage, I would hope. Personally.
Yeah, I imagine when he's little, he does very little damage, though.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going to be a solid. And the funny part is, everyone was expecting this. WB has been doing. NetherRealm has been doing this thing on their Twitter feed that they're going to do an announcement. Everybody was just assuming it's going to be Hellboy because he's the last one of this pack. So this is actually an extra character, and it's being said that he's coming first before Hellboy. So that's kind of.
I bet you can get on the disc.
Man, look at you guys stirring stuff up tonight. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but if you've never heard of Battle Chef Brigade, it's basically a dev studio's attempt to take every cooking show you love and turn it into a game. And just if you read the questions that they were asking each other about how to simulate different textures of food, different types of cooking for food, and build that into a gameplay mechanic, I want this game to succeed just on those conversations alone. That's an amazing set of problems that you have to try and work out. So we've linked the thing in here. It's a good read. I highly recommend you check it out. But that's interesting. On the free side today, Stranger Things the game has been released on mobile on both iOS and Android. It is absolutely free. It's a Zelda clone that uses all the characters from Stranger Things in its world. So that's pretty cool that it's free. Which is my favorite.
Kind of looks like Earthbound.
Yeah, a little bit. FIFA 18 had 1.6 million concurrent players on its first weekend. To put that in perspective, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds took 8 months to get to that level of concurrent players, and FIFA did it day one. That's pretty crazy. That's a lot of people.
Soccer.
Yeah, that's a lot of people playing some football.
We're in an insulated area where we forget how popular soccer is.
Super bubble.
Mario's got nipples!
Not only does Mario have nipples, what he doesn't have are lives. When he gets hit, coins spring out of him. He is officially now Sonic.
He's...
I want to know, though, where his chest hair is. He's Italian.
He shaves.
He had gaps in his mustache, and so they surgically removed them and implanted them into his lip so that he would no longer have gaps in his mustache.
And his bald spot, because he's going to take his hat off in this game before, where the hat covered the bald spot before, so they had to transplant.
I thought
it's 2017. Chest hair is so last year.
And he's also European. Why isn't he wearing a Speedo? European men do not wear boxer bathing suits.
Okay, so this is not a game-related thing, but I thought it was hilarious.
This is awesome.
A genealogy site had Bernie Sanders and Larry David sit down and go through their family trees, and it turns out that they're actually related to each other, which is hilarious. So they are third cousins to each other. Neither of them knew this before this meeting, but I thought that was hilarious and probably explains why Larry David can do such a good Bernie Sanders. And the funny part was Bernie was being interviewed by CNN, and they asked him to do an impression of Larry David, and Bernie turned to them and said, "What? You didn't get the fact I've been doing that this entire time?" Which is pretty meta from Bernie Sanders. That's all I'm going to say.
Nice.
Pretty like freaking meta. Yeah. So that's it. That's it for the news. This is the moment and time in the episode where we like to thank all of our patrons for subscribing at the $5 above level. So thank you, John. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, Regina. Thank you, Bobby. And who am I forgetting? My sixth one.
At least it wasn't your wife this time.
Ian. Did you say Ian?
Oh, yeah, Ian. So thank you, Ian. And then, as always, if you'd like to support us, you can head over to patreon.com/gamersledge, where for just as little as $1 a month, you can get your name on every single show that we do. That's right down in the center of our screen, patreon.com/gamersledge. That's also going to bring us to final thoughts. So we will start with Matt. Final thoughts.
Battlefront 2 beta goes public on Friday. So if you didn't pre-order on Friday, you will be able to try out the same content that I was talking about earlier. So if you're on the fence about the game, you can download it. It is hefty. It is like 15.5 gigs for this beta. It is beefy. But if you want to go ahead and try it out and see if it's match up with what you like I said, it plays very well. It is very good looking, and they definitely did a lot to mix it up and give you a lot more content and a lot more options than they had in the first game. So,
Kate, how about you? Final thoughts.
I hope I get to play some games this week. But I also want to say, color me shocked that Mark is not subscribed to Markiplier. Ha ha ha. It was just on your sidebar when you pulled up YouTube. Because I know how much you love him.
I like him. I think he's got a great voice. But and he's better than PewDiePie. But well, it's not hard to be better than PewDiePie. But my point there is that there are days that he feels forced to me, and I don't like it. Jacksepticeye, on the other hand, I really should subscribe to, because even though I'm not a big fan of Let's Players and whatnot, he seems authentic and cool, and I like him. Not that that's my final thought. It's not. Daniel, final thought.
Alright, just to throw this out there, pen and paper role-playing wise, Starfinder is out, at least the main core book, and the starting adventure paths. That is Pathfinder plus like 5,000 years. It is a sci-fi that also incorporates magic from the Pathfinder universe and is also compatible. So you can take monsters from Pathfinder and bring them into Starfinder in a sci-fi universe. Also, through the month of October, Modifius is releasing Star Trek Adventures, which is the most recent Star Trek role-playing game, pen and paper role-playing game. The game takes place right after the last Next Generation movie, about year 2 for Voyager, and during the Dominion War for DS9. That's not saying you can't pick eras outside of that, but that's, I think, what the game is pointed towards. If you like role-playing games, video game style, absolutely take a look at Divinity. You can see how it's played through a lot of videos, and there's also a GM mode, which we didn't discuss, that allows a person to take part as GM and actually run a scenario they've built in the game itself. It's really interesting. And that's my final thought. Thank you.
And I'll put my final thought. I actually have played with GM mode. I have half of H1 from 4th Ed Dungeons & Dragons plugged into GM mode. I'm actually...
You're the only person... Like, you're like a walking personification of D&D 4th edition.
It's easy. That's why I like it. I like 5th Ed. I just haven't sat down with all the rules and everything.
5th edition is actually way easier than 4th edition.
4th edition is basically an MMO. So if you've got
But it's also super mathy and spreadsheety, which is you.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie about that. You're not saying anything untrue. But I'm actually stopping building the GM version because I am actually now working on the actual modding tools. And you can do a lot more in there, like create custom maps, etc. So I'm actually going to try and create H1 in there. And in this case, Kate, I'm not using the 4th Ed rules. I'm just using the 4th Ed scenario. I'm basically taking the story and building it into this because it's a really... one of the things that I liked from 4th Ed the most is that they did these adventure sets that started at level 1 and you could play all the way up through level 20, which they've never really done before that. And I want to take at least the first one and see if I can make a realistic expression of it using the modding tools, and then release that out and then go from there. I mean, I'll change the name slightly because I don't want to get in trouble with anybody, but you know what I mean. I'll just basically try and approximate as best I can and see if that does well, because I really do think that this game is going to have some serious legs with the modding community and the GM modes. I think the craziest part for Divinity for me is it's made by an indie studio. It's a big indie team, but it is an indie studio, and they crowdfunded this game, and it is all kinds of amazing. Like, if they announce a 3 at this point as a Kickstarter campaign, I'm fairly convinced it will be the most successful video game Kickstarter ever made.
Overnight.
Because everyone, critical reception, fan reception, it got a 10 from GameSpot, which GameSpot rarely gives out 10s. I was really surprised to see that. It got a 9.9 or 9.8 from IGN. Everybody's really critically giving it claims, but anybody who's played it, it's super addictive. And CRPGs are my jam, and I am having so much fun with this. I can't imagine, I know the Pathfinder one is coming out eventually. I don't care anymore. This is it. I mean, I think this game is going to be unlike the way I play games normally, where I flit from game to game to game. I am going to be playing this for a long time. John, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. So, first, even though I kind of bashed Destiny 2, if you did not play the first Destiny, this will be a very good entry for you. If you have any interest in a cross between Halo shooting combat and Call of Duty shooting combat, you are going to love Destiny 2. If you did not play the first one, this is going to be a very good entry to the series. Second thought, going off of Mark, going off Daniel, Divinity, amazing. You really can't beat it. It's worth every penny. You will get more than your share of hours out of it. There's a lot of games that you pay $60 for that you can cruise through in 10 hours. You're going to really donate a part of your life if you want to this game, and only if you want to. You can cruise through it on surface level, or you can dive deep. So you really can't beat it. And third thought, I really have to pee. just throwing that out there.
Well, we'll facilitate you getting there. We'll end the show as we always do with a sage piece of wisdom, so that to tide you over till next week. I broke my arm in 2 places. Matt, do you know what the doctor said?
No.
Stay out of those places. Until next week, game on.
Game on. You broke everyone.
What the hell's wrong with this?